Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Shop Stool podcast. Sorry, my other machine's on. There we go. It's gone off. Welcome back to this is this is episode 5 of season 8, and we have our first guest of the season today, which I'm very, very excited about. All the way from Western Australia in Perth. Welcome to the show, Dan. How are you?
Yeah, good, Robin. How are you?
Very, very
And Joey,
good.
of course.
Yeah, I'm here. Have we had anyone from Perth before, Robin?
I think we have.
It's been a while, though.
Yeah. As I'm saying that, I'm remembering myself saying, "Oh, this is the first person we've had from Western Australia," so I'm pretty sure we have.
Okay.
Yeah, it's been a while since listening.
Not me.
Yeah, there's a few people over here. It's getting them on the podcast. That's the hard thing. Time difference.
Yeah. Definitely. Well, that's exactly what I was just about to say. Yeah. It's a very early start for Dan. It's currently 7 a.m. there, so thank you to him.
Dark.
And you were saying your partner's helping out with the kids this morning, so thank you.
Yeah, they've got the kids. She's got the kids in the morning, so she's doing great.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
So, as we do with all our guests when we get them on the show, how did you get to? Or actually, before we do that, could you just tell us what you do? And
so I feel like I'm a little bit different.
How did you get to that?
Yeah, so I feel like you have a lot of furniture makers, and like Joey's sort of cabinet maker, furniture maker. I do all the above. I am a real. I sort of think it's a little bit niche compared to furniture, but I do all the temporary activations around Perth at the moment, and that includes pop-up things. So we do furniture for festivals, custom furniture. We do things for shopping centres. You can think of like Christmas and Easter and Mother's Day, gift wrapping stations, things like that. And then we do corporate events. We've worked for like people like the Perth Airport that does like promotional giveaways and stuff. So when you sort of walk into your local shopping centre or, a trafficable place like an airport, you always sort of see these advertisements for either brands and all that sort of stuff. So it is a little bit of a niche, I suppose. But yeah, it still comes with so much. It comes with so much. Yeah.
Sorry to jump in there, but just so I could get a better understanding. So are you sort of building the sets?
Pretty much.
What are you actually building for those activations?
So we're not exactly set builders. That's a little bit of a different avenue. So that's for theatre movies. But what we do is we do like activation. So we do big walls. We do counters. We do curved. A lot of things at the moment is very curved is quite in. So that's sort of how it all started, is curves, arches, wavy things. It's sort of all the things that people don't know who to call when they want something built and they just want it to pop. Yeah. We do all the painting in-house, so we tend to use really vibrant colours throughout all our builds, so which is great. So a lot of pinks. The workshop is covered in like this pink dust everywhere, like all the time. So it's like not only wood dust, it's also paint. So yeah, we do, and it's all custom. So very rarely do we use like recycled stuff, but sometimes our wall flats and stuff we'll reuse. We work with a lot of other people. So we work with like graphic designers. We work with vinyl wrappers, so for all the graphics and advertising. And some people we need like specialized acrylic made, which we try not to do too much, but And then we work with people who do aluminium and welding. So it's a humongous array of work that we do. And we sort of involve a really tight-knit network over in Perth that have supplied us for like 3 years now. So hopefully it's probably easier. It's always easy when I go to parties. They're like, what do you build? And it's like, you got to look at my Instagram and you pull out the phone. And and they're like, oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah. I get the same thing. I get the same thing. Like, what do you make? And I'm like, well, what do you want? Because
what do you want?
So,
I have so many questions about this, but before we do that, I'm really interested to hear how you got into this field.
Yeah, so I how far back do you want me to go? Like skill set wise, like.
Well, I guess
whatever's relevant.
Yeah, and I guess what's very interesting I found from a lot of the guests is did you grow up in a trade household, and was furniture making or skilled craft always part of your development?
Yeah, so the big thing back when I was living at home, obviously when I was little, my dad used to have one of those little small garages full of tools. You can just sort of imagine he got this much to walk through. So he was a
Yeah.
big maker of furniture, like solid pine and stuff like that, things you could sort of get from the big box store. Um, and he would make all the wardrobes and bedside tables and all sorts of stuff. And that sort of just rubbed off naturally because you just go in and you do it. So I was building stuff at a very young age. Then as you sort of grow a bit older and get into high school, that gets lost, as it does for a lot of people. Other things are sort of present at that time of life. And then
Girls, alcohol,
girls, all the stuff. And so I did D&T back in high school, like design tech, and it was good. I didn't actually find it as fun, but I'll get into that probably a little bit later. But yeah, I sort of dropped that in year 12 and didn't do it at all, and decided to do the ATAR path and do all that. But then, yeah, so I sort of not from a trade, basically. Everything is sort of self-learned through dad, through me, and just learning, basically. That's the biggest thing. Like you just give everything a go and, yeah, you just get it. And then,
which actually it proves very, very useful in the industry that you've settled in. There's no place to go and learn it. You've just got to be a problem solver, right?
It is. It's a really big problem solver skill, and you're constantly thinking. So a lot of my work, a lot of people sort of draw up plans and stuff, but I do all the 3D modeling of everything before we build it. So I use like AutoCAD, Fusion, Illustrator, all that sort of stuff to create builds in 3D first, make sure everything works. And then we sort of put that through the CNC, and then it sort of comes out. So that skill set alone is very niche. So my background after school was 3D modeling and drafting for engineering companies and stuff like that. So I have a really good knowledge base of how all those programs work. Well, I think I've been using it for like 30 years. It's quicker for me to draw on the computer than it is on a piece of paper. It's just there's that switch as you get better at it. And that's what's really sort of accelerate. And then basically it's actually a massive long story when you think, when I recite it, because then I was like, okay, I've had enough of doing this drafting, because working behind a desk was just getting to me like anything. And I met my wife at sort of around 30, and she was doing her teaching degree, and she was having all these holidays, and I was like, yeah, I want to get on this. So I started my undergrad to do Bachelor of Teaching in Design Technology, and that took me 6 years. So it was a 6-year part-time course.
Wow.
But what was really lucky at the time is that I was basically just on the internet looking for jobs, because that's what you do when you sit behind a desk most of the day. You sort of just scroll what else is better. And a job for a school came up in the northern suburbs, a pretty good school. And they were after a technician. And I was like, that sounds pretty cool. Someone who'd just work in the workshop, help out with the kids, work at the machinery and all that. Went for the job interview, basically got it straight away. And I just basically quit my job that day as soon as I got it. I was like, yes. And I worked at that school for 6 years throughout my undergrad, and they were great. They allowed me to do my studies and all that. So that was like a winner. Like I used all the big machinery then. I was using laser cutters, 3D printers. And then obviously as I finished my teaching degree, I was then able to teach kids 3D printing on all the stuff I just sort of learned. And so it was just like a nice flip over to what I'm doing now.
That's
just on a bigger scale.
As an aside, that sounds like a really interesting school, because obviously they had a very hands-on.
So
I'm not sure which capacity those classes were in, but yeah,
we had a great team. We had a very healthy budget to spend on very expensive machinery. So we got, like a lot of Felder stuff. We got SEM equipment. Like this was like over in Perth, because there's a lot of new schools. Those schools have equally as good ones now, but for the time, it's just awesome. Like we would go source live edge slabs from our local like timber mill, and they would almost give it away for free because they just wanted to get rid of all their scrap. We're just like diving through, going, oh my God. These kids would come out with like, honestly, $1,000 worth of projects in year 12 when they make their own. It was great. And like I helped a lot on the kids, and the teachers would help, and our whole department would get right into it, and we would all be like this collegial like group. And yeah, we just had a really good time. And then basically, you know, as you get older, you begin your family. So my wife and I got married when I before I graduated. I got married, and then the day I graduated, we were sort of pregnant with our first kid. So
right,
she was always going to take a year off maternity leave, which I was like, that's cool. I'll do teaching. And then as sort of that year went on, I was a bit like, can I take a semester off with my kid? So I'll just go leave without pay. Look after him. You can go back to work, because she was already going back to work anyway. And that sort of saved the daycare a bit. And this is sort of where the family sort of allowance came in, all that sort of stuff. So I took a semester off, and as I was talking to Robin, like, he was a pretty good sleeper. He would sleep for 3 hours a day in the middle of the day. And I got really bored of watching Netflix. Like, he would just snooze all day. And so I was like, oh,
Said no parent ever.
Said no parent ever. So I don't like to brag about that, and I don't bring that up too much. But he was so good. And we had a party, and this was at the time, sort of backdrops and things were a big deal back then. And my wife was like, oh, can you make these for us? So I was like, yeah, sure. I'll do it in the garage. That's fine. Make these things. We have the party. Then I want to sell it on Facebook Marketplace. And I got like hundreds of messages just come through for just one single archway backdrop thing. And it just went bananas. I was like, I cannot deal with this. So I turned it off. Like, I turned the ad down. And then I was thinking, well, he sleeps for 3 hours. Let's make 5. And then I'll sell them all at once. So I did that. I literally, I was telling someone the other day, I think I took $50 out of my son's birthday fund that he got, and basically paid for all the materials. Because I wasn't working at the time, and I was like, well, I don't want to take it out of our savings, because it's like, you know. So I took $50 for all the materials.
Take it from your son.
Just take it from my son. Hey, he's got a lot back. It's all good. And put 5 of them up on Facebook Marketplace. I think I did my first Instagram post, and they sold within 2 seconds. Like, literally, as soon as I put them up, sold. I was like, whoa.
Sorry, just explain what these are. They're just...
So
arches.
It's crazy. It's literally just a cutout piece of arch, and they're backdrops for parties. People put like signs, sort of similar to what you see here. You might not see the whole thing, but it's just, and people will like laser cut names or put vinyl decals saying "Happy Birthday, John," whatever. And that's what it was. It was just something. It was just a photo moment, and this was
decoration.
Yeah, it was basically.
Photos. Yeah, gotcha.
Yeah, so about because this was about 2000, right? This was the time when, because my son's a COVID baby, right? This is when people had money and people were staying at home, and they're like, as soon as they started getting out of lockdown and stuff, they would spend more on these parties. And basically what I think is people wanted to spend more on stuff just because they had more to spend. And I think a lot of the, a lot of the celebrities were doing these big, like, flamboyant sort of parties that were just massive, and it just took off from there. And it just was like a snowball effect, and it just went bananas. And that obviously just snowballed. I kept getting messages to build, like, I must have built like 500 of these things. And it's literally 3 mil with timber backs and just a leg, and boom, and that's it. And that's what I was making in the garage at home. Until basically one day someone from Melbourne said, hey, we need something built in a shopping centre. Are you able to do it? I was like, sure. I had no idea what I was doing. They wanted this they wanted this 3-dimensional shape arch thing made. I was like, sure, I can do that. I had no idea. I was still in a double garage. So anyway, I made it for him. It was okay for my first attempt. It was okay. And then that just started snowballing. As soon as someone saw that, whoa, okay, can you make this for us? Can you make this? And it's just one of those things. It's just, I gotta say, it's probably a bit of a luck and really good timing. And yeah, it's just basically gone from there. And I went back to school after and said, look, guys, I can either do teaching or I can pursue this, because I sort of came back to teaching and was doing it part-time. So I was doing both at the same time, which was really stressful. That's why I think I went grey really early. And basically sat in the principal's office, said, look, I'm going to try my own thing. And at that point, when I sort of sat down with him, I just won a pretty big job for a pretty nice shopping centre. And that sort of was the leap on getting my own space up here in Bayswater. And that was it. Basically, I was off. So I said goodbye. They actually said, look, we'll keep your job open for a couple of years if you want. But look, there's no coming back. Like, they're such a good school. I really rate it. Like, they were really, like, they just loved it. They loved it. So, they were really supportive of that.
That's crazy.
And then it just went great. And then I was on my own, basically. And that's when sort of your mindset changes. It's like, and I think, Robin's like, oh, crap, I actually need to make this work. Like, this has to work, basically. So, yeah, from that day, it was just like, off to the races. And we don't really do those like party backdrops anymore. We've got a few bits and pieces that like people can buy basically through the website, and we'll custom make it. They're sort of like the products. But a lot of our work now is big builds, like big stuff that, basically design clients come to us. They say, we've got this brand, we want this and this made. And that's what we do. We facilitate all that. So yeah, it's been a wicked ride, and there's been lots of ups and lots of downs, like as there is. But yeah, that's sort of the story. And like now we're doing big hanging things from ceilings. Like we're just going nuts. So we're trying our hand with like as much as we can. We want to basically.
If we fast forward then a little bit, because I've got a million questions. I think Robin's got a million questions.
You beat me to it, Joe.
But so what's interesting, I think there's a whole lot of things. I don't know exactly where to start, but for example, a bunch of your work is like mall temporary shopping stations, say.
Yeah.
And in my experience, those things tend to just literally pop up and go away, as they're called, pop-ups. And so what kind of lead time are you dealing with? Because I suspect you probably get like a week.
So, no, you're absolutely right. So the latest one we did, which was probably one of our biggest pop-ups to date, so it was all around, was an 8x8 meter sort of pop-up shop store. And it had like a stage, what stage dressing is? You go to concerts and they got all the stages. We basically sleeve those in timber. We build our structure around that. So the engineering is in the structure itself, because that's what anything above becomes very like, we really got to, obviously there's engineers involved too, but they gave me exactly 9 days to build this, to design it. This was coming from America as well, so this had a delay. So they would send me revisions each day. Like when they said, oh, yeah, we're going to do it, there's a revision the other day, and I'm like, you're not getting the revision. Like, sorry, guys, like you can't keep changing it. If you want this in 9 days, there's just no way. So I was like, look, we're going to go with this revision, which is the quickest one to build, and you're going to have to be happy with it if you want it in 10 days, because like it's just crazy. And like we would work, look, with builds like this, you do work your weekends, you do work a bit later, but also, 10 days for something like this is not a long time. So what I need to do, what my role is basically, is to get on the computer. We've obviously done so many builds that I built up a lot of standard connections and how things go together. So you adapt that to what you're doing, and then you just run the machine for days on end, like cutting. And then the guys in the back are putting it all together, and you're trying to jump over each other saying, no, this goes here. And you're trying to show them whatever plans that you can possibly produce in the time. Because obviously, if you're doing CAM drawings, like digital fab drawings, you can't do the nice pretty ones all the time because that takes a whole other side to do. So you sometimes just print out what you've got and you make sure everything's labeled. And then I think for that one, we spent a week. We used a bit of some stuff out of our sea container, like just some temporary walls we've always sort of got. We modify them, then we spray them. We organize all the graphics. So when it comes to install, we get a massive truck, like one of those big 9-ton trucks, and we just fill it. Everything is on dollies. So we make all our own dollies, put it all in, and then we just go. So, and then you're probably asking, how the hell do you get it up in any sort of time frame? Because something that big takes a long time to put together. So, and shopping centres have a time you're allowed to be in. I don't know if you know. So you have to be in after trade. You can't be in there when people are in there. You know, the elves have to do their work at night time. So from about 9 o'clock, and we were there until
I'm picturing you guys all dressed up in elves clothes.
Yeah, we should have been. Hey, little pointy hat, the shoemaker. We're in there from basically 9 o'clock till 6 o'clock the next morning, putting this together. Yeah. And life was actually the worst at that point, and all my guys agree. But it came out.
My nightmare.
Yeah. That was like the most I've ever worked on a job continuously. Yeah, it is just fast. And like things go wrong. That's the worst thing is things go wrong on it. We actually did it over 2 nights because we ran out of stage trussing. I didn't order enough stage trussing. So this thing was half built in the shopping centre. I said, can't do anything. We got to come back tomorrow and do it. There's nothing we can do. So typically the big thing is, so to answer your questions, Joey, lead time, some people are great. I've literally got quotes and stuff now that are for November. That's fine. We can deal with that. The idea though, from experience is like, I don't want to draw that process out too much. So I need to get my quoting in done, approvals, all your ducks in a row. So you can give basically yourself the most time possible to build them, because people come to you with the craziest stuff, like the craziest things, and you have to sort of figure out, how am I actually going to build this, like, and how am I going to build it efficiently, fast, and taking into account it's temporary, most of it. So you can't spend a lot of time on these things because literally it may end up in the bin in 3 days' time. So you got to really put it into perspective on what you're doing.
That's really a consideration I was going to talk to you about, is because while everything is temporary, your first thought is, well, I can use some cheap old crappy materials because it's just going to be temporary. But actually, the finishes that these brands require are like premium, really spec stuff, and so you actually have to use, I suspect you're using actually high-end stuff that to get the finishes, or wherever you have to, you use the best quality stuff to take a good paint finish, say. And so actually, just because it's temporary doesn't mean it's cheap. In fact,
no.
I imagine, and especially with the rush jobs, not only are you using premium materials, but you're charging a heck of a lot extra because you have to work all bloody night.
Yeah, so we take, obviously, because sometimes we work on Sunday, so we got to take penalty rates and stuff in, and my guys I pay them overtime as well to work, so I got to factor in that. I may not get overtime, but they get overtime because they deserve it if they're working like really late. But with the materials, so I use a product. Do you know what F11 pine structural ply is? So F11 is basically what. Yeah, structural ply. So F11 they call it. It's 15 mil.
F11. I got you.
F11, yeah. So it's an A-grade bond, and I think it's I'm not sure what face it is. I think it's like a BC face.
Yeah.
So what I did a few years ago is we wanted to move away from using like DRA pine. So we don't want to use basically I've got a real issue with throwing pine in the bin, even though it's pine. It still comes from a tree. It's still milled and all this sort of stuff. So I really wanted to use the engineered timbers. So if that means it's the Meranti, like the finger jointed Meranti, we'll use for our little bits, because it's a much more sustainable product. I believe it's a bit more sustainable than pine. And we use for our thicker, bigger timbers, we use an LVL, like a laminate. It's called a Smart 10. Basically, it's like plywood all stacked up. You see it on building sites. I think you see it a lot in New Zealand, actually. I think they use it. Here, it's not so common, but they are dead straight and they come in 6 meters. So that's sort of the big thing. And so that's our structural side of what we use inside bits, like especially the F11 15 mil. The other stuff we use is like an exterior grade ply, because we've got builds going outside that are going to get rained on. So we've got to use a plywood that's able to withstand quite heavy rain. And then the paint that we use, we don't use like real cheap paint either. It's like proper exterior grade paint. And we prime it and 2 coats of top coat, and that protects it from the weather. And then all the internal stuff for your shopping centres.
Inside of a shopping mall?
No, so we do festivals outside that are literally there for a month. So they're actually great. The festival ones, we work with a great supplier at the end of the year, and we've done furniture for them. And, all exterior ply, it's basically weatherproof to an extent. You're not going to get 100 years out of it, but you'll get a good probably 10 years out of it. Being outside, it's nice and sealed up. It's really good stuff. And so we got to factor in that. Then our shopping centres, obviously, all inside, they want primo finishes. We may be able to use F11 inside products, but all the outside is MDF because it just takes the paint really nice. We have experimented with the white laminate and all that, but it's just too expensive. Our clients just don't have that sort of budget to play with that sort of stuff.
I've noticed on your Instagram page, you've posted quite a few videos about the finish. And I think the last one I saw was something about you don't just use a junky spray, slap on or something like that.
Yeah.
That seems like a massive part of the process. Do you have a sort of a competition in the space where you're separating yourself from other people based on your finishes?
It's sort of funny because I never used to paint my stuff. The place who used to get our stuff used to paint it themselves. So they used to get a painter in. And that's because I was working out of home. So as soon as I got here, I'm like, oh, cool. Now we can actually properly spray stuff. I don't have a booth or anything. We're not blessed with that sort of room. So we do literally spray in front of the doorway. And I just find we just get the best finishes. And this is something I've learned for a long time. I've had to learn how to paint. And actually, Joey, I remember watching one of your videos. I think you used the bin 123 on the edge of MDF or something. It's a very old video. And because we were doing something for school, and I was like, how do you seal up the edges of these MDF boards? And I think I stumbled across yours, and I was like, oh, we get that here, luckily. And that's all. That's basically what I use. So we edge treat all our timber in that, and then we spray, and then we just go. So the spray result, the result that we get, and sometimes we have side to side comparisons with what's there and what we produce. And toot my own horn and all that, I just find our paint is just second to none. You wouldn't know, any different. It's just, and for what we can get with acrylic is great. It's smooth finish, and it's just great. We don't use 2-pack. That's one thing we have on very rare occasions, and we get that outsourced because it's too dangerous.
These days, water-based paints are so good these days.
They go on nice, and you do find the better paints over the we've experimented with a lot of brands, and we've sort of found now the paint that works for us and how it sprays, because we use big industrial airless sprayers, so it's got to pump through nicely, lots of paint coming out, and you want that thing to go on super smooth. So it's you do have to experiment with the paint type, but we've locked that in now, so it's pretty good.
That's awesome. Yeah, especially because you're spraying, I presume, from what I saw, you're spraying a lot of your panels leaned up on a slight angle against the wall. And so that essentially you're spraying vertically, and absolutely not every paint is going to do that well. Some really good water-based paint has to be flat.
Yeah. So we spray, because both our sprayers can spray actually upside down. Even our little HPLV can spray overhead and without a gravity fed bin. It's a bottom bin. Actually painting is a massive technique. I think people like overplay it a bit. That's maybe why I push it so much on Instagram. It's like people just think, I can paint a room. I can paint this. And it's like,
yes, anyone can put paint on a wall. But
anyone can.
There's a difference.
Whether they do it well, it's whatever. I always say give it a go. That's sort of been like the motto. Just give it a go. But I feel like our paint's like really nice.
Awesome.
Can I go back to earlier? We were talking. You were mentioning your first client that you got, someone in Melbourne. What was do you know? Firstly, how that person found you, and then what was the evolution to getting more people? The reason I ask is I'm finding a lot of my work is coming from various places, but there's one particular, I'm getting referred from one particular person here in Townsville. So did you find it was sort of coming from one stream of referrals, for example, or I'm just trying to figure out how, because it's such a niche and corporate world, how did they find Leighton Builds in Perth?
Yeah, so my original client, who unfortunately I've had a bit of a falling out with, but they found me through Facebook Marketplace. They had a team here located in Perth doing Perth activations, and they just needed one of these backdrops I was talking about. And then she sort of showed up literally at my shed door, and I gave it to her. She's like, oh, what else do you do? And you got to say, whatever you want me to do, basically, I'll make whatever. And that basically was like, oh, great. We now have a contact in Perth who, like, let's be honest, who works from his garage so he's nice and cheap, right? That's basically the premise of, like, how someone found me. Is like, great,
and we can really... And working hard for whatever.
And working hard for not very much. And they knew, like, I was pretty cheap at the time. And that's cool. Like, I'm only starting. It's fun. Like, so that sort of launched that. And then, obviously, you just have to be... Like, my social media at the moment is not like the highest count or whatever. But so I think for mine, it was a lot of word of mouth. So because I was also dealing not only with corporate, but I was also dealing with people. Like I sort of call them the mum and dads, sort of, they buy these things to hire out to kids' parties, like to have at a school fair or something. Right? So that sort of gets out, and then just word spreads around. Perth is a very small place. So everyone sort of, as soon as you know that someone does this and you're in the same sort of boat, or you just want this thing for your kid's birthday party, hey, call this guy. Here's his Instagram. He'll be able to sort you. So that's where a lot of word of mouth came from. And most of my clients come through Instagram. The one big caveat to that is, as of last year, I made a real big effort to get me listed or started to gain traction in ChatGPT, like AI searchable indexing.
Okay.
And that is a massive thing. If you like, because these designers are not located, there's not many that are located in Perth. So typically speaking, if you want to be found and you live in a different city, especially on the other side of like Australia, most people go on ChatGPT and say, custom builder, activations, Perth, enter. My name comes up first. And that was a really big thing. I really pushed. And yeah, it did take a while to sort of get there, but that's how a lot of my referrals now are coming through, is through AI searching.
So how did you push that from an AI perspective? Because isn't AI just scraping?
So you want the secret sauce. You want the secret sauce. Yeah. So first thing is, obviously you have to have your social media in check, and then you have to. The golden key, Robin, is you have to use AI to get AI searchability. You can't just plug in what you think is good for the AI. It has to tell you what is good, and then you've got to basically regurgitate into like Instagram, YouTube, and all that sort of stuff.
On your website, etc.
On your website, everything. Yeah, it's a very tedious project, but it pays off. So it's a lot of work.
So,
and I'm sure people do
this.
So
I understand. So you're basically, so you're going to AI, ChatGPT, and saying, write me SEO optimized descriptions for my website.
Yep, pretty much. And I will. Okay, all right. Yep. Yeah, gotcha. And I'll even give them an Instagram post. That will do by alt text and say, hey, this is what I sort of want you to get at. Make it AI searchable, and it will spit it out. You paste it in, boom, put it on. Yeah, it's something I really took advantage of early.
That's gold.
That's so new. That's such a new take on advertising.
And because I'm a millennial, right? So I feel like I know how technology works, but AI is like, whoa, it's going to be big. It's huge. Like I use it every day for a lot of things. How I run my business, all the social media campaigns, and all that sort of stuff. And it's a blessing and a curse. Yes, it makes life easy, but also you really have to nail it. And you got to have the time. That's the biggest thing to it all. Is like sometimes you just don't have time. Yeah.
As an aside with AI, speaking of it, recently, in the last, 6 months, I suppose, I've been getting lots of AI images sent to me from clients saying, I've been talking to AI. I want this thing, and this is just what I want. And I get this picture that's like typical AI garbage.
Yeah.
And then when you start actually applying real world measurements to it, and like it just recently had this person, AI designed them a kitchen island, and it had like crazy amount of drawers in it that just did not fit physically inside the space that they wanted, and it's just completely wrong. And I went back and said, look, what you want can't be built, it has to be different. Are you finding, because I imagine people are using AI a lot to help them design these larger spaces, is that something you're running across?
What's really awesome is, like, firstly on my end, if a client comes to me and say, look, I've got an idea for like an activation, needs to include all this. Typically I can go on, put that into AI, and maybe with some reference pictures, it will churn me out something actually very nice to look at, basically. Right. And typically what that means is I can get an idea onto a page really quick, like within 5 minutes, send it back to them, and then they can have their meeting and discussion about it. And that sort of takes a lot of the burden off, hey, what about this? What about these 3 designs? Like, I just don't have time to do like 5 designs for them for free. So I go, AI that, boom. So I've done that for a university recently and a couple of other things. So, and I say to them, like, look, it's AI generated. Like, obviously there's tweaks and stuff, but this is my thought. What do you think?
Yeah.
Then I get the opposite, like you said, Joe. Like, I get these AI images, and you're like, holy crap! Like, how? Like, it's crazy. Like, they're great, but then you sort of sometimes you got to say, look, if you want it like this, it's going to be really expensive, because basically a lot of things at the moment is like geometric shapes. So to make geometric shapes out of wood is very difficult. So I had something just here recently. So we actually then subcontracted someone to make these out of aluminium, and he would be able to fold them like sort of origami. So there's ways to do it, but you do have to always tell the client, hey, look, I see you've been on AI. That's all great. Let me have a look at it, because I guess you could. There's 2 ways to think about it. You could think, it's really good that they're using, at least they can visually show what you want. And then you as the builder, because a lot of people like say to me, do you have to build what they give you? And it's like, well, yes, to an extent, but we got to take into account like a sheet material size. So 2.4 by 12, that's how tall. If you want it taller, oh my God, it gets way more expensive, because basically you need to buy another sheet, and then you got to join it. So just getting something to 2.6, it can be an issue, let alone 3 meters and 3.5. These things become really big, awkward to manage. So you do have to say, look, the AI is good, but let's consider our options to make it more economical if budgets are concerned. Let's shrink it down. But it's a great start. Thank you for that. You always got to be nice to the client.
I'd be really interested to know with these corporate bigger clients, and because they must, at least in and of themselves, have a really good idea of their budget for this kind of thing. And
some are really coy,
I imagine.
I think.
Do you get to hear that budget at all? Because we almost never do when we ask. It's very rare that anyone gets a budget up front.
So I really push for that for them, because that I sort of explain, look, I can price this exactly how you want it done, and I know that will be over budget. If you give me your budget now or a range you would like to work within, then I can price it and build it and take into factors that account for all that. If you're saying, oh, I want this, and it's like $70,000, and you go, well, I only had $5,000, you're like, well, that's a totally different conversation. And I also got to say, look, I don't want to waste our time, because I find custom build, especially for me, it takes such a long time to quote these things up properly, factoring in hours. Like I got to factor in so much, like you do with any project. I sort of need that straight up, because if they say like a figure and I cannot do it for that, then I need to be upfront with them and say, look, I actually can't do it, and I don't think it can be done. But look, can we think about taking this away? Can we take this away? Do you want to paint it? Do you want to get someone else to paint it? There's always options around the budget. It's always a tricky thing in this sort of industry, because
it's always dicey. I've always found when you start saying, do you want someone else to paint it, or do you want to paint it? You're like, no one's saving anything at that point, because we all know that
100%
your paint job's going to be way better than else.
But the thing is, some people only look at the figure on the bottom of my quote, and they're like, cool, this is this, so I can do this. But they don't, some people just don't factor in their time. And that's sometimes what I talk to them about, is like, if you want to do this, then like, please factor in your time to do it, because this is going to take you a long time like this. And you may not get the result at the end of the day. So you got to sort of, get that option to them, but sort of just reinstate that, like, it's probably not the best way to go. And it actually may not be that more budget friendly.
Yeah.
With this sort of corporate client that you're working with, do you deal directly with it? So Qantas comes to you and wants something built. Are you dealing directly with Qantas, or is there a third party involved? Typically,
there's a third party, because, like, say, Qantas doesn't particularly they have marketing people, but what they don't have sometimes is the design elements that is required to pull this off, or these sort of activations rely on a lot of things. So it obviously is the artistic that you engage these design firms for. But then these design firms have, like, basically administration staff that can look after budgets, that can look after me, that can look after someone else, and the AV and the graphics and all these. So they're sort of the administration and artistic team of the whole thing. And that's the big thing about corporate, is that big corporations like Qantas, they just don't have that, or they don't want to deal with that. That's not their business. So they just say, here, we want this activation done, make it happen. And then these guys go out, they source all that stuff, and they come to me and they're like, yep, let's do this. So, yeah, typically. And then you have some other brands who come straight direct. Right. And the hard thing is saying, oh, you sort of need to let me know what you want to be built. So you sort of have to put the design back on them. It's like, it's not my brand. It's not my thing. You need to sort of give me an idea, use AI, give me an idea of what you want, and then we can work it out. That process is typically a little bit longer. Design firms sort of know exactly what they want. They come to you, like, I've got emails that have renders already there, sizing, dates, installation, all that sort of stuff already. And that's sort of the saving other people make by coming direct to me. You get a little bit of a longer wait. Other people, we need this in 2 weeks' time, and here's all the information. Now, they may not have all the information and we've had that recently as well, that they seem to be on the back foot as well. Something has changed in corporate. They're trying to pass it down to me. We've already built it. And you're like, sorry, like it's built. Either we totally rebuild it or we got to keep it the same. And then they sort of got to feed that back up to them. So, you know, it's very, it's a very very interesting web of like chain of commands and stuff when you start dealing with third parties, me, all that sort of stuff. Yeah. Yeah.
I have one more quick question. And this, this is a more, anyone who's in that echelon where they are building, they've got their furniture making business going, and they are sitting on the fence of, do I move into a bigger space? What was it for you that got you out of your garage and into your now space? And what was it that made it viable? Because, I mean, I can obviously say I want to go do that now, but I will be shutting the doors in 6 months. What was it that made it viable for you to do that?
So I remember hearing a podcast before I even sort of started that. I don't know if it was a YouTuber going out on his own. And it basically, that's what actually resonated with me is like, I don't exactly know who it was, but he was like, I need to work up a buffer, a number, basically.
Yeah.
How much does a year cost me, right, to pay my bills, pay my groceries? Doesn't have to pay me, right? But we still got to live. If you've got a family, you've got to take that into account. What's that number? And that's sort of why I started part-time, because I needed to save to that number, right? Mm-hmm. And then once I got that, it's like, cool, we had some work on, and that was sort of the point to go. It's like, cool, we've got that year buffer. If it doesn't work, whatever, I just sell all the equipment. It's all done. I gave it a go, and that's the big thing. Is I just wanted to give it a go, but I also wanted to make it work. So I had that number. So I basically had that nice buffer to buy equipment when I got in. And like, I'm a massive fan of secondhand equipment. It is a big underutilized thing I find when I watch YouTube and stuff with these makers buying these really expensive tools. I'm either like, wow, they're like, YouTube income must be wicked. But in the real world, like, you just cannot, when you're just starting, you just cannot invest that much money, because if it all goes wrong, then God, you're in like a world of hurt. So yeah, so having that buffer, buying secondhand equipment, and you can always get better later. It doesn't matter. So yeah, that's sort of the big thing. So if you're on the fence, yeah, make sure you have a buffer. Make sure you have the work coming in. That's a big thing. If you don't have work coming in on like a fairly regular basis, then chances are you may not have the work coming in as soon as you start. It may get better. So that's what that buffer's for. It's basically give you a year to make sure like you are getting work in. And we have quiet times now. So it's a good learning experience. So if you know that, when you started, you needed this much, in 3 years' time, you probably still need a kitty just in case. Like, you don't want to run that dry because then.
Absolutely.
Oh God, the tax man comes. Oh my God, the tax is all in the media at the moment. So they come after you, and you find out like, and I don't know if you're the same, Joe, but everyone wants a piece of you. You get phone calls like every second week going, "Hey, I'm an SEO consultant from wherever."
Oh my God.
It got if you pay us $7,000, we'll increase you. And you're like, dude, I rank 1 anyway. Like, what can you possibly do? But
those phone calls get exactly 1 second from me. Like, it's not even. So I don't even reply. Like, it's not even. It's just off. I cannot deal with it.
The big thing, like, I've learned, especially because I've got now 2 casual employees. Getting your accounts system in place is probably one thing that I never thought this would be part of the job. Like, I always thought the accountant would just do it. But the thing is, those accountants can cost you up to $10,000 a year just to look after everything. And you still got to do your own books. So like, that whole factor is so expensive. So you do have to learn how to do all your Xero or MyOb, or know how to return your BAS, make sure you're structured the right way. Like, it's just one of those things. People think about, I'm just going to make stuff all day. It's going to be absolutely bliss. And probably for the first 6 months, it is exactly going to be like that. until you get your first tax bill, and you're like, holy crap, I'm behind. I'm going to get late fees and all this sort of stuff. So yeah, buffer, learning your numbers, and getting your jobs, making sure that your marketing is all in check as well, and making sure you're getting those jobs in.
Having your like taxes or just a really good system for your money, income and outgoings is such a big deal. And we've changed our approach. It's my wife does most of the book work, and I'm kind of just feeding her some of the raw numbers. And we've changed our approach over the years, I think 3 or 4 times, because we think we've got it sorted. And then, 3-4 months go past and, oh shit, we didn't account for this, or why is this bill so much bigger? We don't have the money. What's going on? And then you go back, oh, look, there's a mistake on the spreadsheet. We didn't account for whatever it is. And so then you've got to rejig your whole system. And it takes a while to really understand the flow of your business. And so all you can do at the start is your best effort, but just be aware that it's going to be a continual evolution of understanding how money works. And as your business grows, those numbers can often get bigger and bigger and bigger. Hopefully they do. And then managing that as well. It's a different scenario, right?
Yeah. So you have to be, you don't want to put your head in the sand either. I've done that a few times too, and it has really bent me. I don't do that anymore.
I think it's a very easy trap to fall into as people who are entrepreneurial, to be constantly looking at, that's the process I want. I'm going to try and master that. And then you get there and you go, oh shit, there's something that's come in from left field. My grand plan of solidifying this and making this the end goal is now out the window. Now I've got to go somewhere else. That's what do they call it? Like productivity hacks. Yeah, it's a waste of time. You could just keep going forever.
Yeah, like you do have to, like in quiet times of the year, we do improve our systems. So if that's like, we look at everything. You would have seen maybe on my story, I've just built this massive little hardware system, and literally that has paid off already. Like we don't have to go to Bunnings or, we don't have to go to the bolt shop every second day. Like everything is just there, and you're like, all right, why didn't I do this like ages ago? Like having hinges on.
But you also recognize that in 6 months you may be tearing that down because that no longer fits the need.
Maybe that's
I mean, I hope not for your sake, but
I hope not. That took ages to build.
There is no one productivity hack that you work towards. Yeah.
No, you always sort of got to be improving your systems.
Cool. All right, we're gonna have to leave it there because we're at time. Thanks for coming on, man. I feel like we could continue this talk for
There's a lot to talk
longer.
about.
There's a lot to talk about.
Yeah.
One last thing. So obviously you're in the Perth area, but your stuff's all around the world, or all around Australia.
Oh no, I wish it was right now.
We're getting there. If someone wanted to see a Leighton Builds activation, you called it, in Australia, where could they go see one now?
Now we've got one actually going in tonight at Rockingham, which is in Perth. It's sort of this southern suburbs. That's going in. It's not a big one, but it's just something. But honestly, if you want to actually see what I'm talking about, is probably go on Instagram and just go through that. That's probably the best idea to say, oh, right, I get what he does.
Yeah. Okay, cool. All right. Well, thanks again for tuning in, everyone. Thanks again, Dan. Really appreciate your time, and all the best for the future.
Yeah, thanks so much, guys, for having me on.
All right.
That's great. Cheers.
No problem. See you later. Bye.
See you. Bye.
Bye.